Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. The Let's Talk Wrestling podcast where I'm going to have to fucking turn off my Skype again. No, I'm not. I'll fucking edit it. 3, 2... Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk More Wrestling podcast. The wrestling podcast where we occasionally talk about professional wrestling when our audio equipment decides to go tits up. My name is Turbo Tony and we're here with Matt Marsander. How are you today, Matt?
Not too bad, man. I thought it had given up on you again.
It's
like when it's about to go tits up, and I was half expecting you to go, and it's done it again.
For guys that don't know, and you may be wondering the reasons why, there is an episode yesterday, and there's an extra episode today. Myself, Matt hasn't, he's been completely fine. Myself, who I do all the editing for the show, have had massive technical issues to the point, this is the third time we've tried to record this. Third time we've tried to do this episode.
This is actually the third time that we've tried record this extra episode.
Yeah. So there you are. It's been a nightmare, unfortunately. Basically, the background behind it is we've been using the same audio equipment for ages. It didn't work, so I got new audio equipment. That didn't work, so now we're trying again on the old recording equipment that didn't work in the first place. So it's a big mess, and I do apologise for people expecting for a full episode. It won't be that this week. In fact, considering we've already talked about a bunch about professional wrestling and we're doing the same thing over and over again, this extra episode is essentially just your fan questions because we didn't want to leave you guys, people that asked a question this week. We want to, considering how much you guys support our show and the fact we're about to hit 200 subscribers, which is an awesome thing. We're very least, thing that we should give back to you a little bit and at least give you an extra episode, more episode for the fan feedback at the very least if we can't give you a proper episode. So that's what we're going to be doing there this week. We're going to be answering your fan questions, and that's essentially the crux of the show. We did talk about ages, unfortunately, about other stuff, but our audio equipment just doesn't like to work. Yeah, so it hasn't been a great weekend for us, shall we say. I do apologise. The network has launched over in the UK. Myself and Matt have got it. You got it a couple of days ago. And much more before when it was released. I got it yesterday. I've been watching a few things. We were talking about pay-per-views that we might end up going to watch. I think we kind of settled on SummerSlam 2002. So I don't think we're going to do that. I'm not going to put a date on when we do that, but we might do like an extra one where we review, set episode. So we may end up doing that at a later date. But if there's any pay-per-views that you would like us to watch, then you can tweet us at TalkWrestlePod, or you can also use the comment section below. And enough of you guys band up and tell us to do one particular one, I'm sure that me and Matt will cave in to peer pressure. Not exactly. Not exactly
cowards,
great.
Cowards like that. It's like,
okay,
stop the shouting.
We'll do it. So without further ado, we're going to give you the fan feedback segment this week, which we're going to be doing now for the third time. But because we love you guys, we are going to do it regardless, and hope it works. Hopefully you guys see this and hear this going forward. I'm going to be spending the majority of the entirety of next week doing audio work, which sounds riveting. It's not. So. Let's get on with this, Matt. Let's waste no time. Let's get straight to the fan feedback because, like I said, these issues are annoying me.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. We Are ODST asks us whether we see John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL, returning into the ring for in-ring action. I don't know whether he meant for a short-term match or a long-term, stint, or maybe 3 months here, 3 months out. The consensus is between myself and Matt is no. Might see him give the clothesline from hell to someone, possibly, in the future. Maybe even next week at the Raw review. And you said that Ron Simmons is going to be there, didn't you? So he's always cool. But he may just be there for a damn and then he just might leave, which is okay for him.
Which is probably more likely.
Yeah, that's right. But in terms of a long-term stint, no, I don't see him coming back.
I don't think he has it in him.
No, I don't think so. The one thing I point to is his retirement match he actually had with Rey Mysterio. The guy didn't look in great shape. He really didn't. You go back and watch that. He was in bad shape. He was not looking good, shall we say.
No.
Now, he's obviously better since then. You've heard all the stuff about him climbing certain deadly mountains across the globe and stuff like that. You can't do that if you don't at least have some stamina, of course. But do I think the guy looks at the ring and looks at the bumps the guys are taking and think, you know what, I want a couple of months of that? I don't think he does. Personally.
No, I think it's like, I'm good.
Yeah. So that's perfectly okay as well. In terms of JBL though, I mean, I think even if he did return to the ring, you might get a cool response, but I think people are drawn out on him at this point, especially.
Jesus, I mean, since JBL, we've had the Mexican JBL in Del Rio.
Yeah, exactly. Doing the exact same
gimmick.
Yeah. But the one thing about JBL, I think, listen, the one thing to reinvigorate his commentary, if that's really the key, and that's what me and Matt definitely want from the guy, getting back into the ring won't help that. So, no, I don't see him going back. He might have, like I said, a quick gimmick match here and there. Do I see him being, like Jerry Lawler was back when Miz was champion, getting a ladder match for the belt? Certainly not. Certainly not. Just don't see that happening, so.
Do you know what? I'd actually completely forgot about even that.
Yeah. No, that was pretty cool, back then. But I don't think JBL. I don't think he's got any intentions of doing that, and I don't think WWE really wants them to either. I mean, it's the era now of NXT. They shouldn't have to bring back announcers, from the commentary booth to go do work for them in the ring.
That's it.
They've got in-ring talent that can do that. So
they should have people they could just call upon.
Should do, but. They also ask, what is our favourite weapon / prop? And this isn't my answer, but as soon as I was asked this, all I could think of was Al Snow's head and Perry Saturn's moppy, if you can remember back in those days.
Oh, of course.
Al Snow's relationship with that decapitated mannequin bordered on the erotic. It was a little bit...
I was going to say, if I remember, dude, just got someone from who used to enjoy lots of ECW.
Yeah.
I remember head.
Yeah. And obviously moppy, I just don't... There's not really much to explain with Perry Saturn's obsession with a mop, but still, yeah, those were things back then in terms of props and weapons that were used. I just remember them being in the old SmackDown video games. You could actually use them as weapons.
Yeah,
so strange, so bonkers. But in terms of what my favorite weapon is, and man, this is so boring for me to actually state this as an answer, but mine is the steel chair.
That's it.
The reason being is because, especially now the network's been released and I've got this access to their great back catalogue and tape library, is that they have got all these matches where the chair itself was almost deemed with so much respect because one hit by the chair and essentially you're dead. You go down.
That's it. That's the match.
Yeah. There's no point. You may as well have been shot in the head. But if you took a chair shot back then. And that was it added great drama to the show. Now when we watch like the likes of Dean Ambrose and Wyatt just destroy themselves, just annihilate themselves, whacking each other over the head with steel chairs and tables and all that sort of stuff, it takes the gloss off it a little bit,
especially considering we're now in an era where you need to be hit by that chair so many times for it to even just cool.
Yeah, some people just even no sell it, So
yeah.
that's the kind of thing. I mean, it's the evolution of wrestling. I get it, They just constantly keep trying to outdo themselves. But you look back in those days, if you got hit with a chair, the crowd were almost in shock. They were like, Jesus Christ, get EMTs down to help this guy. Now you have to damn near have the thing jammed down your throat, and people still won't flinch. It's but yeah, what was your favorite weapon?
My favorite was actually table.
Table.
Pretty much for the exact same thing though. It's just sort of you go through a table, that shit's serious.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of nowadays where, the first time we tried to record this, I mentioned having, we had, Ambrose and Wyatt in their TLC match and their ambulance match, and, between them, they've gone through about 9 tables each now.
Yeah.
And it's no. One table, that's all you need.
Yeah.
Done.
Sell it as if it's a real bad thing that's happened.
Sell it like it's a fucking table.
Yeah. I know what you mean. And it's a little bit of a shame that the actual... While the TLC matches, of old and law, Edge and Christian, Hardy Boys and the Dudleys were awesome, that kind of did contribute a little bit to these things being less...
Impactful. Oh, yeah, no, I completely understand that.
But... And then I also think, going back to the steel chair, all I can think of in terms of matches that involved a steel chair, and it's not the chairs match that they have on TLC every year now, which is stupid. It's that match with Rock and Mankind, where he got battered over the head, Mankind did, by The Rock, with a chair, while his two children watched and cried as their daddy got decimated in front of them, and that wasn't fake. They thought their daddy was being killed, and I was like, why do you bring your kids to this if you know this is what's going to happen? You're going to get destroyed.
Like, you know this is happening.
Stupid. But I think of that as well. That was a brutal match where he was just getting whacked.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable to watch for me. And yeah, I wouldn't want my 5-year-old or 3-year-old watching that in the front row, crying their balls out saying, Daddy's getting killed, because that's pretty traumatic, I would say.
That's pretty much how it looked, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think of that. What would you say was when you think tables match? Who you end up thinking of? I guess it would be the TLC matches, wouldn't it?
The worst part is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't blame you for that. They were great matches, but
as for sheer memorable matches, I did very much enjoy the very first few TLCs.
One thing I think of when it comes to tables, though, is the Undertaker being involved in a ladder match and going through, the set of 4 tables that were stacked on each other.
Yep, true.
That was pretty fucking brutal, especially for the Undertaker back then. People were like, "Oh, well, shit," that's pretty bad. So there's that as well.
Yep. Well, there's, you've always just got the the most famous "Get the tables."
Yeah, of course, you got to have that. Of course.
Yeah.
Bazooka Majin asks if it was a possible. This is a big question now. So, a possibility that WWE has another brand split, and if so, what brand will get the Superstars, Divas titles, and if there's any chance for a returning draft, coming back to that. So essentially it's the brand split question that we're getting here. And that is a pretty big question. It factors in a lot of things. No, personally, I don't think a brand split is happening.
Like you say, it factors in a lot of things. Like one thing it factors a lot into is just the sheer cost of running two separate production crews.
Yeah. Because like back then, what they would do is that they basically essentially had 2 shows. They had the reason why the brand split was done is because they had a huge influx of talent from ECW and WCW at the same time, and Vince essentially wanted to create 2 different companies. But when he tried to do the WCW thing, that just didn't work. It just when he tried to recreate WCW, they had that one show where I think it was Booker T against Buff Bagwell as the main event, and fans shit on it. So,
yeah,
they weren't going to really go forward with that. But as you said, they're wanting 2 production crews. They just want to save money now, especially with the network. They would have to get a different set for SmackDown because they need to make it seem unique.
That's it.
The set they have.
No more Fist.
Yeah, no more Fist. Which was iconic for SmackDown back in those days. You'd have to try and make SmackDown more of a unique show, and it's just not. But if you were to do a brand split, what would I do? What would I do if there was a brand split? The biggest thing of this, and I'm not going to say, I would move Hornswoggle over onto here because no one gives a shit about that. The big move that I would do is put Cena on SmackDown, and I would put all of your rising mid-level stars on that show to work with him.
Yeah.
You'd have to bring back the world title, the world heavyweight belts. And I would literally have all these guys that come up from NXT think they've got a good shot. They don't instantly work against Cena, but the big goal is that you work with Cena. Doesn't even matter if you win the rivalry. And then once you think that you've got a big enough account of yourself, you go to Raw, because Raw will always be the flagship show.
Yeah.
Cena doesn't have another decade in him. I don't think he does anyway, nor should he. So what a good way to use the tail end of his career than using it to get other people over. That's just in a perfect world.
Talent. Yeah.
That won't happen, but that's what I would do. Yeah, in regards to that. What would you do with a brand split? How would you? The big question is this: is not so much what would you do with a brand split; it's how would you get SmackDown relevant again? Isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I guess that would just be it. Like you'd have to bring back the whole exclusive superstars back again.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned before, like, you ever wanted to see Triple H, you ever wanted to see Edge, or even The Undertaker, Batista, people like that. It's like, well, you gotta watch SmackDown.
Yeah. You have to watch SmackDown. There's no other way.
I think the only other thing is, Raw moving to 3 hours has probably helped prevent the brand split.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, we want a 3-hour slot. Are you sure you can do it? Yeah, and we'll have viewers. But if they were to do the brand split, that would instantly kill the 3 hour Raw.
Yeah.
Which I know you don't particularly care about.
Well, yeah, I hate 3
You'd
hours.
happily see the back end of a 3 hour Raw.
Gee.
To be fair, so would I.
Yeah.
But they were like, we've paid, like WWE have paid good money to get their 3 hour slot.
Yeah, well...
And if bringing back the brands is going to hinder that, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah, like, the fact is, they pushed all their eggs into Raw, and that's the way they're going to keep going about it. One of the main reasons why Yumi don't watch SmackDown is because Raw is 3 hours long. It's just, it takes a while to watch each week. And it's not exactly, sometimes, especially the mid-monthers, they can be real bad to get through some weeks. Yeah. We don't have the luxury of being able to skip through. You know, we review every segment of Raw, and, you know, we don't do what one of our friends does, which is essentially fast forward through all the matches, because we actually like the in-ring talent, and sometimes we don't want to miss good matches because the talent they have on WWE is good. It's just they don't get a lot of time. That's unfortunate.
That's it.
So yeah, they're not going to do another brand split. That's the basis of it. They're trying to make SmackDown more relevant. I would argue that they've tried to do that before, and they get bored really quickly, and then they just go back to the status quo. And until I see otherwise, I'd be basically stating they're doing that again. I very much doubt. They'd have to do continually a couple of months of giving a lot of SmackDown very exclusive matches with big name stars before people would start going, you know what, I should probably catch SmackDown this week. You can't make a irrelevant show that's been irrelevant for 5 years suddenly relevant. It takes time.
That's it. Just go and give, just like on SmackDown, have your main event be something huge, and then for a while, and then consistently on Raw, have your main event be something shitty.
Yeah. Then you have people wondering, yeah. I know the wrestling on SmackDown is often pretty good, but how many times have you and me said on this show, Matt, that SmackDown is irrelevant because anything that's relevant on that show will either get repeated, as in they'll do it again on Raw, or they'll just show us what happened on SmackDown on Raw. You know, there's no reason for us to watch SmackDown. We'll find out about it eventually, and that's the bottom line with it there. Also, one thing about the brand split is, you know, the reason I say bring back the heavyweight titles, because having a sole champion traveling that much, even if they were to stay in the same area, but back then it didn't work very well, having the champion going backwards and forwards and being, you know, on both shows. It just got... And I don't trust the creative, by the way, to be able to book 2 shows that well. That's just the bottom line of it. I mean, they can barely do 3 hours of Raw. Do you really think doing 3 hours of Raw and 2 hours of what they were supposed to be doing, primetime television on SmackDown, is really going to work? Nah, I don't see them. Don't see them pulling that off, unfortunately. And I think 5 hours of wrestling a week is far too much. Far too much. And I'm a wrestling fan. I can't hack 5 hours of wrestling a week. When it's pay-per-view week and it's NXT week, I tell you what, I love NXT.
Every week is NXT week,
yeah,
Tony.
Now it is, yeah. But you know what I mean? It's like some weeks when we watch Raw and you've got NXT special and then you've got a pay-per-view, that's 8 hours of wrestling. 8 hours in a week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people wonder why 3 hours of Raw just burns out their fans. It really does. Burnt me out already, to be honest, if I'm honest with you. Anything you want to say about the brand split? Or anything that you would do? No, I just don't see it happening, guys. And to be honest, I don't think WWE are in a position at the moment where they can make it work. So, there we go. Crimson Omega gives their rundown for the perfect belt list. And they state here that is obviously their opinion, so that's great. We'd love to hear their opinion. It differs from my own, and I'm going to explain more on my opinion. But it's down to my statement last week that in terms of championship title belts, they don't believe that having less title belts on the show means a better, title picture. That more belts with separate divisions, and then you can build up each belt. Fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion. And obviously, you may have been saying this in a perfect world. That's exactly what we're doing. I guess that's what everyone would do in a perfect world. Legitimately build up different divisions. These people definitely go for this title. These people definitely go for that. A little bit more like boxing and MMA, I'm guessing.
Where you've got all your weight divisions and things like that.
Divisions. To make it a little bit more legitimate, we all know that Vince McMahon has no intentions of making WWE seem legitimate. It's an entertainment show in his eyes. That's exactly what he's going to do. So, here's my problem with that, and the reasons why that Doesn't work. Sometimes even in a perfect world, and this is just my opinion. I think more belts means overly less prestige for each belt. Having more titles on the show does not mean that each of those titles suddenly gain more prestige. In fact, it can often be the other way around. The prestige of being the one champion in a company as opposed to being one of 10 champions in a company, that's completely different. Like being the sole champion or being one of only 3 champions or something on a show
Yeah,
compared to another
to
show.
be the guy.
Yeah, to be the guy. Or one of the statements that I said that kind of surmises what I'm trying to get over, because it is awkward to kind of explain it, is that the prestige should come from being a champion, not what championship belt you have. Winning the Intercontinental Championship should be a big thing. Winning the United States Championship should be a big thing. But the fact is, when you've got so many belts on there, it's more like an accessory rather than I have won a legitimate wrestling championship title belt.
Yeah.
And WWE has a hard enough time booking the titles that they have at the moment. That's the reason I say just get rid of the US. The US, I think, is the first on the chopping block. I think Rusev personally, and we said this before, I think to get more heat should put that US title in a bin and burn it. Maybe break it with a hammer. Say, this is what I'm doing for my country. Fuck you all Americans. This is what Russia thinks of your belt. And smash it, and then you ride it off television. I don't know, some people will be insulted. Or look at the heritage that the United States Championship has got. Well, I'll tell you what they're doing with that at the moment certainly doesn't help. I would much rather it not be around than the way it's been.
I was going to say, but the belts, like, you do realise that he won it off an Irishman.
Yes, it's not even that, right? We've had a lot of non-US champions. It's just the way that the thing has been so irrelevant for so many years.
Yeah.
Like Dean Ambrose, had one of the most useless title reigns. Sheamus didn't have that much better. Sheamus barely defended his belt until he got into the ring with Rusev. Rusev beat him. Who has Rusev defended that title against?
Rusev hasn't actually had a defense of that title.
I think he defended it against Swagger. And that was about it. But we all knew he was going to win that because he already beat the guy. It's frustrating. And the reason why I'm saying this doesn't work is that more belts means that you have a roster full of wrestlers who have huge, decorated, glittering championship. Bad News Barrett is a 5-time Intercontinental Champion. I doubt anyone will care how many times he's won that belt, and something is wrong with that. Kofi Kingston has tons, United States Championship title reigns, Intercontinental Championship title reigns, Tag Team Championship title reigns. Can anyone remember the guy legitimately having a great match to win said belts?
Nope.
That's a problem right there.
Oh, I saw a great meme which was, get ready kids, it's almost the time of year where Kofi's relevant.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? I'm not even digging on Kofi. There's tons of people in there that have got tons of championships that mean nothing. Look at Dolph Ziggler. All of his Intercontinental Championships, pretty irrelevant, right? The one time he won the world title, cashing in, everyone will remember that moment because it was treated as if it was a huge thing. And he was, that was the highest mountain for him, winning the World Heavyweight title, cashing in on Alberto Del Rio. Even then, it could have been bigger if that heavyweight title had meant something back then, and it didn't at that point. You look at it didn't exactly have a great track record. I just think if you have if you have 10 belts as opposed to one belt, that one belt would always be much more sought after. It would have so much more time to get over as a legitimate, huge and decorated championship. But now you've got a roster full of guys with, like I said, hugely decorated belt championship histories, and no one gives a rat's ass because it's just too attainable to get the belts. That's the bottom line with it. I think if you were to add in, like, with the belts they've got in now, if you were to add in like the cruiserweight or the hardcore, I don't trust their current creative team to be able to book that correctly.
Bring back the 24-hour rule.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say that. I don't think it'll work. I don't think they're capable of it at the moment.
Oh, no, not at all. It would be nice.
Yeah, they overcomplicate things that don't need to be overcomplicated, and then they go completely brain dead on stuff where just a little bit of thought would help. And
that's it. Oh, why isn't it working?
Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying there. Get rid of the US belt. I trust you. It'll make the other belts better. It'll make them seem like championships. And the killer line, I'll say it again. The prestige should be from being a champion, not what belt you have, not what championship belt you have. You know? It should be the fact that you are a wrestling champion.
It's
That
not,
should be
it's
give you
not the
prestige.
championship you hold, it's the champion you are.
Yeah, exactly, right? So the fact is that when you've got someone who wins, who cares that Bad News Barrett won the IC title again for the 5th time? I love Bad News Barrett. So do you, Matt. Do you give a shit that you won the title?
I didn't realise it had been 5 times already.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something seriously wrong with that. So no, adding more titles to that mix just creates more shiny, decorative waist jumpers for them. You know, the fact is, a championship belt should be special. And you know what? There's something to be said. You know, so almost the one thing about being special is being one of a kind, being rare. You know, being something out of the norm. You know, being something extraordinary. You can't be extraordinary when you've got 9 other title belts on the roster. It just doesn't work. So that's it. And I know what you're saying here. In an ideal world, it would be great to have it kind of set up like boxing and UFC. But come on, realistically, WWE are like at the very least a decade away from doing something like that, even if they wanted to, because they have to re-educate all their fan base to think otherwise, and they ain't gonna do that because Vince likes it being sports entertainment. Remember, it's sports entertainment. That's what he likes.
That's it. It's not wrestling.
It's not wrestling. It's not wrestling. We even joked here that we should rename our show Let's Talk Sports Entertainment, but that's just so bad. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it there. Just kind of backing up and talking more about the reasons why I just don't think more belts work on this roster. Robert Chapman calls me Tony Cole because I messed up the line last week, calling it the schoolboy roll-up pin, the most powerful move in wrestling history, and not the most devastating move, which is what it's been called often here. And I feel bad for you, Robert, because you missed tons of us joking about this throughout the entire week. Not joking at you, but making a joke out myself, you know, in regards to it. I made tons of Twitter references and hashtag Matt is awesome, vintage turbo, and all this
vintage.
other stuff.
Let's Talk Wrestling.
Yeah, that's it. So I think I feel bad for you more than anyone, really, unfortunately. But yeah, and he makes a reference here to Raw with Brock Lesnar giving Cena the German suplex, and Cena just hopping up as if he's just eating his Weetabix in the morning, and just hops up.
Yeah. Ready for a brand new day.
Yeah, he looks like he hasn't taken anything, and you know, obviously then he AAs Lesnar into the table and all that stuff goes down. The one thing I thought when you put this down is that, well, I get what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. Maybe the guy has just taken so many German suplexes, he's just grown immune to them at this point. You know,
he knows the way.
He knows the way. We made a joke on the failed podcast, the episode that will never be. Saying that maybe after taking so many German suplexes, you know, knowing he's in another match with Brock Lesnar, he went to Germany and learned the art of their suplex, so he knows best how to take a German suplex.
You wissen also true. This is the most brutal and efficient suplex ever.
Oh god, we missed your imitations of Macho Man and
Paul Bearer.
And Paul Bearer. Oh dear, such a good episode that we lost. I'm so gutted about it. I hope you guys can feel it here. I'm gutted about it, but still. But yeah, I thought that was quite funny that you left it here. And hashtag Cena no sells German, or Cena master of German suplex. You know,
that's it.
Vintage Cena, vintage Brock. Hashtag at Talk WrestlePod. It's quite funny because like I just don't get Twitter that much. I'm just like, fuck it. Throw out all these random references for no reason. So yeah, you know that's the point of that there. And I do expect Lesnar to be going German suplex crazy at the
Rollins is going to take a lovely German suplex.
Can you imagine him selling that? He's going to bounce around all those ropes like a pinball. He really will. Talking of German suplexes, though, I actually watched. Like I said, I was watching Vengeance 2006 just before I came on. And you know, on the network, of course, which is $12.99 in Ireland, not $9.99, like it is for you in America, and obviously for you, Matt, in the UK.
Yeah, but if it's $9.99, I'm getting ripped off.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm getting ripped off, but that's more about the Irish tax laws than anything else.
You got ripped off the day you set foot on that grass, mate.
Let's not make this political now, okay? I think we're going down a dark alley, but so yeah, there is that. But one of the things about Vengeance is that the opening match is Randy Orton against Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle landed like 8 German suplexes in a row. Just funny how Brock Lesnar does 16 in a match, and I guess that is overdue, but 8 in a row by Kurt Angle, and just German suplex crazy,
German suplex from Kurt Angle or German suplex from Brock Lesnar. Think I know which one I prefer.
Yeah, I'd take a few from Angle in terms of Lesnar's one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Rollins selling a German as if he's just basically been.
He took a German suplex, didn't he?
No, he hasn't taken a German yet.
He did in the promo bit.
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't. No, he head stomped Lesnar. No, I think he did.
German first.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're right. So even he got back from his German quite well, didn't he? Maybe Brock's German suplexes are getting weaker, as the time goes on,
That's it.
It's the secret to his demolition at SummerSlam. So, that is our questions for the week. Like I said, a very small episode. We do apologise for the technical issues. I will try and get everything sorted out for next week. And find some sort of program that just won't fail on me.
That's it.
The bottom line. And I sincerely hope that this actually worked and you will hear this. This will be the last time myself and Matt actually try and get this out. We've answered these questions 3 times already, and we do appreciate the questions.
If it's done, it's done.
Yeah, that's why we want to do the fan feedback, because I know it sucks to not have the rest of the podcast, but I mean, you guys have been very supportive, and we feel like to pay you back, we at very least have to try and respond to your questions on that weekly basis. So
we owe you it at least.
Yeah. So even if we do miss an episode, and like I said, we hate doing it anyway. We missed one because I was ill, and we missed one now because my laptop decided just doesn't like the podcast anymore. I'm putting it through too much work to do the podcast. It's fighting me on it. We'll still try and get out these fan feedbacks to you regardless. So if you do have any questions, leave it in the comments, or at TalkWrestlePod, hashtag Ask Tony and Matt. Vintage Turbo! Right? No. I'm not going to be doing that shit next week.
No more sugar for you.
I feel a bit dirty saying all that, so that joke is dead already. Okay, guys, I'm not even going to carry on with that because that's crap. But thank you guys for joining us there this week for this mini episode, and we will catch you all next week for a proper episode 59, and we will do our predictions for Royal Rumble, give our thoughts on it. We may even talk about Roman Reigns, and maybe he might give us another story. Who knows? He could give us,
Gee, I hope it's 3 little pigs or something.
Yeah, so yeah, he can easily do that, can't he? He could be the big bad wolf,
He could be indeed.
Yeah, who knows?
That or I'm going to have to watch NXT and for some Baron Corbin matches.
Yeah. I know, like, you missed a lot of stuff with the Raw review this week, guys. We do apologise. The main thing of it is that Raw was meh, and I just don't know what they're doing with Roman Reigns. I thought that his promo this week was sucky. To the point of that we think someone may be sabotaging him at this rate. We're feeling paranoid because we're just like, this is absolutely horrific.
Just like something is just going horribly wrong.
It's all going wrong. So, thanks a lot, guys. Leave questions. If there's anything from this week's Raw that you'd like to ask us about, then like I said, leave us a question. We will talk about it next week. We've got all the notes. We talked about it already, so it's fresh in our minds.
We know what we're talking about. We just don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I think our fans can understand at the moment that I am pissed about all this. Thanks a lot, guys, for bearing with us. We do appreciate it. We will hit 200 subscribers soon, and we do a big celebration in regards to all that. But for now, we will bid you adieu. We hope you guys have a better week than I had, and we'll see you for the proper episode.
That's it.
Alright then, guys.
We'll see you around.
Bye bye.